Hey, everybody. Good morning. So, a couple things that really are standing out to me that I think are important are the breath looks awful to me, but we'll see how this goes. It's going to be a pretty weird day. I think because it could be one of those days where you just grind higher all day and people can't figure out, why that's happening. You're in this range and you're trying to already break out of it, and I think that's really interesting. So we'll just watch our levels and go from there. You're going to start broadening out for sure because it's getting very clear that they're going to cut rates pretty substantially. If you have time today, the one thing, let's start all over here because I've got levels all over the place. The one thing that I would really say and suggest is if you can, watch the Bloomberg and watch Besant on TV today, just talking about things. It was super, super informative on how he sees things and where things are going. And I think that you'd benefit greatly from watching that. I mean, clearly this August 1st level, the complete drop and melt down from there. When you really go back and look at it, all you've done is backfilled, down pretty considerably to where levels that 3%, 3.5% from the high in like a day. And then you've just keep backfilling it and working it up and hitting a high and then backfilling it. I mean, it's pretty technically perfect. And this is what you're doing. So it seems to me that that's really what's going to happen here. So what I think you should focus on with it is the understanding that, this might just continue and grind. And you just might have this small little area to focus on. It might be something like that. It might just be that small area of names that just keeps grinding for a long period of time. Wouldn't be the first time that it's happened. Certainly won't be the last, but these would be the levels that I would focus on today. And if you start breaking out, you're just going to see, in my opinion, you're just really going to see panic with it. I think that's really where it goes. I think you really just see some level of people panicking a little bit. That's what I think happens. I could be wrong, but I think that's where it's going. Where people just don't want to be out of the market, can't believe they didn't buy, that kind of stuff. We'll see. Now you got PPI tomorrow, and people always blow that off. But I do think it's fascinating that you came all the way back down to this level. Right. And you came all the way back down to it. And then from that 830, all you did was undercut it. That's all you did was undercut that level. And then from there, you undercut that 830. It's why I always tell people to mark these bars off because you can't unsee it. Once it happens, it's like, okay, so all I did was come back to that level. And then from there, I held it. And then I started to rally. And all the trades, everything that moved off that level from there, you'll see all the positive divergences. I thought that was super interesting. And you have some other kind of, I think it's interesting how like you're just going sideways and then you'll lift up and then you'll go sideways and then you'll lift up. So do you really have something here? I don't really think you do. I don't think you have a lot here to really hang your hat on. But do you start flipping the upper levels? I think you're going to. I really do. But I think that this CPI number and marking that off is absolutely huge. So like if you do come down for some reason, both sides of that, you can see the battle there as well. I'd watch it, and I'd watch it on the ES and I'd watch it on the NQ, but I'm not really sure how much of that you're going to have to worry about today. I think it's going to be more company specific. I start going through some of the names. Some of the names look fantastic. and they're hanging in there. The secondaries really are throwing stuff off. I don't think you want to chase today. I think if your name's bidding up, like I was looking at this AMD today, for example, I really don't think you want to chase a darn thing today. Yesterday you could have paid 168 at what, 10 o'clock, and nobody wanted it. Today you're going to pay 180. It doesn't really work for me. Not in this kind of environment, because you're going to get some kind of tweet or something. So why not just wait for it and just buy it cheaper? We got some kind of tweet here. It was funny because we got some kind of tweet, and you can actually see them, like when these tweets are coming and what they're doing to the market. And, you're able to buy this thing way cheaper just because, somebody went out there and said something. I think it was this actually too, right? Didn't he do it again here? It's like, oh, we're going to tariff everybody. And everyone's like, oh God, that's bad. And then people didn't understand it. And then from there you went up, a good $10 or $12. Then you came back down again. And then you went up another $12. I mean, it's over and over. It's a Groundhog Day. So until that changes, I think you just look at the structure. Now, eventually you're probably going to break out of it. You guys probably see it as well. But if you see it right here, right? And then you're starting to try to break out of like this DTL and come over, retest that little area and lift. And so for you guys that love this name, I'll tell you what you're getting. You're getting this left shoulder head, right shoulder neckline, like it's kind of a wonky, crooked neckline, but it's there. And, the right shoulder and left shoulder are pretty much the same development. You can say it. So it could be a pretty big move to the upside, but I'm just not paying up for this kind of stuff. But they want in. Don't get me wrong. They definitely want in this name. And we're seeing that a lot with some of these names. So I do expect that to continue. I wouldn't put that past it. And I do think that that's something for us to look at 100%. What else is interesting? Tesla's inability to get through that level, I think, is very telling. And I don't think that it's something that you really should be, trying to push until it shows you that it can actually do it. You're really getting wedged in here. And, we all have this belief that it's just going to, it's Tesla, so it's going to rally. I don't know, man. I think you just want to let it chill a little bit. Let it tell you what it's going to do before you're telling it. And you're getting these huge moves from the first 5 minutes, and then it's just going away. So I don't know that I really need to be there for that. Just looking at some things. Names you guys are going to ask about. Kava, absolute dumpster fire of a quarter. I don't know why anybody would be shocked by this, like at all. Sweet Greens was a dumpster fire. They're not going to change their habits because one's called Sweet Greens and one's called Kava. So, salad's a salad. It is what it is. Why would you spend so much money on a salad? It was always my kind of thought process on this. It's just ridiculous. And I think people are starting to get that. Like same store sales are down big time. Like they fell off a cliff. So it's that growth rate that's going to kill it. And you saw this coming with Sweet Greens, really. I mean, if you take a look at Sweet Greens from their earnings, again, I don't know why this would be a shock to anybody. And we'll see, see how that trades around today, but I wouldn't be bottom feeding that. I'd be more interested in the rallies and selling them. What else is interesting? Circle, secondary. So we'll see how that goes. Surprised in their timing. Surprised they did one, frankly. CoreWeave, this name from the IPO, you've obviously had a monster move. You're really struggling with that IPO VWAP overnight. I think that's kind of an interesting level to take a look at as well. What else do I see out there that's super interesting, that's worth talking about? LEU doing a secondary, that's pretty neat. I'd watch that. I think that's definitely something for me to pay attention to. I definitely think that that's something for me to look at, hands down. So I'll definitely be focused on that and seeing how that goes. I'm trying to think what else I have that's super important. I don't know where they're going to price this sucker. So that's going to be an issue. What else? This is interesting to me because I want to own it. And I think after they price it, that's probably going to be pretty much it for that name. Software looks decent. Let's take some questions. We'll take questions. What's up, John? Yeah, I actually traded that yesterday. I actually like this a lot. I don't know that I'm going to chase it. I don't really like what it did here. Whenever I have these levels and you start riding them, pardon me. Whew. Whenever I have these levels and you start riding them like that, it just bothers me because it needs to make some kind of decision, and it clearly has not made that decision yet. So it's definitely on my radar. But I did trade it yesterday. I was at like $4 at one point. Then they just swept the leg, and that was it. Yeah, I'm not really sure that I'd be chasing that just yet. It can move, but I think you have to look at that from a different perspective and see how that's going to go, right? Like it's not something where it's definitely not something to me that I want to be overly, involved in. I want to just really let it settle. What else are we looking at here? The core weave, I'm not sure about, dude. I'm really not. Because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what I'm looking at here. If I go and take a look here at this 55, and I'll make this super bright so we can see. So that's the 55. I just made it white here. Deal with it. And I'm going to clean off all my levels. So I close over the 55, right? And then I do the undercut with the wick. And then I do the undercut again with the wick. And then I close over the 55. There's two things that are standing out to me here. First is I'm not breaking below those wicks. So the people that were buying in those wicks, they're still buying. And I think that's really important to get, right? So they're definitely still buying. Give me 1 second here. Let me just lock in some of this. All right, cool. So they're still buying, and you're in that wick city. So if I look at that area here, I'm not breaking it. So even last night, where these wicks are, right? There you are. And you're not really breaking down in that area. So I don't know that I'm going to break that. I'm not going to assume that I'm going to break that. I want to see that it's going to break. And then I'll go from there. But I don't know that yet. And yeah, could it have done better? Yeah, they could have done better. I mean, it was a super, super hard short. You actually had to short this. So you see these wicks, see how you're getting less than 50%. And then you have to watch like where you closed at, which is right here. And then you see the bar. But by the time that bar hits, it's like 143. So they made this super hard. Really, it was like the following bar and the gap down, like the falling window bar that kind of told you that it was over and that it wasn't going any higher. But that didn't really leave a lot of meat. And from a risk versus reward on the trade, I think you have to be super careful just assuming that this is going to fall out of bed and allow it to tell you that it's going to fall out of bed. That's where I'm at with it. So that's what I want to see. I want to see that it's actually going to, fall out of bed. I don't know that it is. And if it breaks the 130 level, then I think you have a problem. Until then, I don't know. I'd watch that. And I actually probably really want to go and take a look at something here while we're talking about it, while I'm thinking about it, and try to figure out where they're. Let me just see something real quick here. See if I can pull this up real quick. Yeah. So Yeah. So you really have like, they're saying the call wall is 150. They're saying the put wall is 120. So I don't know. Maybe if you break the 130, you're going to fall apart. I'm not so sure on that. I'd watch this really closely. I'm not so sure you just fall apart, John. There. What's up? All right. Let's go. SPX. I just think it's going to grind, but the breath is starting to scare me a little bit. MP Meta coin. So Meta, yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say. Everyone's waiting for the breakout. You got the breakout. Does it go up 8 today? Look, I think all these names are giving everybody an opportunity to get in cheaper. I'm not chasing a thing. I do own Meta. I bought it yesterday. I think it's very clear these XLC names are setting up. I mean, here's the XLC, right? And that's your Meta, your Google, your Netflix, like that. They're your top three. Like they're all setting up to go. So XLC is breaking out. Like it's very clear. I mean, you can't miss it. I mean, there's the XLC. There it is. Yay. So, the idea that Google and Microsoft are going higher. I think Charter is also another one in there, but that's always a dumpster fire, isn't it? There it is again. Being a dumpster fire, but I don't have a position in it, but that's in the top 10 there. So that shows you how well those other three names are doing to lift up this dumpster fire. I do like that space, and you are seeing money go into it. You're also starting to see money go into the IGV, and the IGV is holding, and I think that's super important to get that as well. But I would chase them. I don't think you need to chase anything here, man. That's where my head is. MP, when you get bars like this, I just stay away. And it doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong or whatever it is, but I just tend to stay away. It's like, even when I got a bar like this, I stay away. And people are like, well, that didn't work out. I'm okay with that, man. Not everything I do I don't need to be in every single trade, but all right. So then I watch that fall apart, and then I have this shooting star, and I need to get up over this. So, wake me at 82. Maybe I'll look at it, maybe. But, clearly the move was that announcement, earnings, and then you just ripped, and then you just stayed there, and you never took out the low. That clearly was the move. But, for me, it would have had to really be this bar, and then you have that news, and then, it is what it is. And then the cycle's complete, and the stock continues to push. I think it's been a very difficult trader, because every time you're breaking out, you're failing because you have so many shorts on and everything else. So I find it extremely difficult. And so sometimes when I find names like that, I'll just completely avoid them. Coin to me, if I can close over, I have a short on, but I haven't done anything with it really. If it closes over the 55, then I'll get concerned. Until then, I'm not overly concerned about it. I don't really think there's a big need for me to do anything there. UMAC, yeah, I saw a bunch of people talking about this. Don't they do? Aren't they into like the whole drone thing? I don't know enough about them. I'm just gonna leave the 55 in. I mean, to me, the whole drone thing, I did the KTOS. It made the most sense. They're the ones with the bigger contracts. They're the ones with the ties to the government. It just makes more sense. The other one I'm looking at is the AVAV, because rally fails, rallies fails. And you're right down here in this level. You have that secondary that they did, and you're really close. You've worked that all off, and you're right against the 55 now. I would like to see some more of, let's get rid of the pre and the post, but I would like to see more of this like oomph. See, when this flips, to me, it's like red means no. So when I get these reversals like this, I just makes sense to me to just kind of wait and see if it flips. Oh, look, you flipped, and maybe I can make some money off of it, maybe not. But when all these three are like pointing down like that, I'll just go look for another name. It's much easier for me to make money when they're all aligned and going higher, right, off these names, than when they're all like screaming and pointing down like this. It's much harder. So there's not really a reason for me to like rush into it. I just, this is very short term. This is your 8, your 5, and your 3. And, green means go, red means stop. Green on top means go, red on stop, means no. I mean, it's not rocket science. I'm not the smartest bulb in the world. So color coding helps me. Or brightest bulb, smartest bulb, brightest bulb. There you go. See, that's why I need the color coding. Can't even come up with the sayings. So this kind of stuff, you just want to watch, man. Like, I don't know. Like, why do I have to be in that one? So you just want to kind of play around with them a little bit. Like, do I need to be in UMAC? Why? Because it's $10. Who cares? I'd rather buy something that's 60 that goes to 70 than buy something at 10 that goes to, and falls apart. Now, if there's a real reason, is it really going to go? Is that the one I have to buy? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I would look at the higher lows, right? Like, or the lower highs. Way more coffee today. We need some caffeine. And that would, I'd find that vexing. I would not make me feel good about myself, albino. Eggs. I love when we talk eggs. I'm all about that egg life. So, yeah, I mean, obviously earnings, obviously people like their eggs, and you're setting up here for sure. I think this kind of stuff makes a lot of sense when you start thinking about domestically and you start thinking about the exports that the government's trying to do. I do think that there's something to that. And I do think it's important to understand that. So, yeah, I would definitely look at it. Do I have to get involved here? Yeah, I need to flip that level. I might even want to look at a volume profile there from that day on. I mean, you're already over. You're probably going higher. But, not really for me. But I get it. Netflix looks great, Mitch. Pardon me. So, what's up, Ricardo? UEC. Go for it. I mean, you guys have been trading this sucker for a while in the room. I mean, it's doubled. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a good one. Like, I don't really have much to say about this name, guys. Like, I don't know anything about it. These are not the ones that I've been trading. The ones I've been trading, I always look for the ones like I want to trade LEU. Like, I want to trade that one because there's billions of dollars there in revenue. I want to trade BWXT because there's billions of dollars in revenue there. So, these are the ones that I tend to trade. It doesn't make it right. I'm just telling you the ones that I trade are the ones that have like real revenue, and like I'm not looking for like this might be the one that does this. If I want to do that kind of stuff, like the OKLO, if I want to be a dreamer, like the OKLO and these reversals, like they're going to just go higher, or NNE. Like you don't even have to worry about it. You're just buying the dream, So UEC, I mean, maybe that's the one. Maybe that's the one that's going to go. No revenue, and these things are just like ripping, and it's so weird to me. But sometimes you have revenue, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you make 20 million or 50 million. Sometimes you make zero. So I don't know, man. Maybe they keep pushing. Maybe they're on that list. Are they on the short list like OKLO is? Maybe they are. Honeywell. I think these kinds of names are interesting, but I don't know that I'd want to go near it. CTA. No, I wouldn't go near that. I wouldn't go near either of those two. UEC, I mean, that whole space is on fire. NVIDIA looks great. AVGO looks great. Sophie. Yeah. They're just grinding higher. I personally, I went through this like just to see what people do when they open up like a Robinhood account or a Sophie account or anything like that. It is so easy to manage this versus like any other like bank. It's insane. And I get why people like it. Like I do. I think that interface is going to be absolutely huge. And they've become like a one-stop shop to this generation. I don't see that changing. anytime soon. And you can do anything you really want there. So it's very, very helpful. When I saw that, like, oh, you can do your checking and your savings there. Oh, there's your investments. Oh, you need a personal loan. Oh, you want a mortgage? Like, they're going to do everything in one spot. And I think that is very, very helpful to people. Very helpful. Not everybody's doing that on these regional banks, which was a huge missed opportunity for people to be that. And, Hood doesn't really do the same kind of stuff, in my opinion, the way that Sophie does. So this one makes way more sense to me. You're getting into a valuation standpoint, really. Now, with rates coming down, they're going to make more money. But, I mean, you're really up there, man, on a valuation basis. But technically, you look like a beast, man. You flip this, it's gone. You'll get in the 30s pretty easily. But you just got to go for a ride with it. Be willing to go for that ride, and it's not an easy one. When you look at it, you really never closed below that 22, have you? Crazy when you think about that. You flipped your 55 back here. You did here, and then just flipped it again, and that was it. And it's been 100% since then. Some of these moves are just awesome. It's so cool to see. I don't know. I don't know that I would be chasing it. I'm not in a big chasing mood here, to be honest with you. I really don't think you have to. I think there's too many opportunities on some of these pullbacks. Yeah, I don't know. This is for like the whole Instagram thing, like, right? Isn't that it? Is that what they do? I don't know. Is this what they sell? I have no idea what this company does. I don't have a freaking clue. I thought that was no, I think that's something else I'm thinking of. Maybe that's not this. Oh, that crushed it on revenue. And the revenue is crushing it. I don't know. I don't know anything about them. I mean, technically speaking, you'd have to get through, right? It looks like you're going to. Good morning from Tokyo. XHB. Yeah, I think you're there. I do. I think you're there. I think people are getting it. Besson's on that. Like, I read this in the Bloomberg today. Like, Besson's on them to cut rates like 50 basis points. And he had a really interesting conversation today on Bloomberg. I'd listen to it. So if you're trying to figure out like what's going on with the BLS and what's going on with the Fed and how they perceive, if you listen to someone eloquent explain what the issues are that's going on, I would listen to him. And I do think there's only one thing that caused houses to not be bought and caused housing affordability issues. It's that you raised rates faster than any time in human history, like ever. Nothing's even close to it, to what was done. Like, there's not even anything close to what he did. And I don't think people get that, like, at all. Like, you can't really go and find any place even in Europe or Asia where they did anything even remotely like what Powell did. And I think that's a real problem. And when they cut rates, man, people are going to buy houses. But the affordability, it's not this group of people or that group of people, it's mortgages. Go look at the 30-year average rate and go look at the moving average of the mortgage rate over decades. There's never been a disparity like this in history, period. I think you're there, man. I was looking at these names and yeah, they're getting a bid to them for sure. My hope is that you get some bad data on PPI tomorrow and then people panic and say they're not going to cut rates and then they go from there. But I would listen to Bessent on this today. I'd go and listen to Bloomberg. I think he was on around 7 or something. It'll be on the internets, on YouTube. And it was fascinating to like, oh, like, okay, like you're mapping it all out as to what the real issues are. I agree with everything he said, basically, when I listened to him about like, if the Fed had that information and they had real information in June, instead of this like lackadaisical, oh, we'll let this stuff come in whenever it comes in. And it's always been like that. It's gotten worse, but yeah, I mean, I think Powell would have cut rates. I think that Powell would have cut rates in June had he had this data. He certainly would have done it in July, or he would have looked like a moron. You have the worst job growth that you've had since 2010. Like, to think that he's not going to cut on that data, I think is wrong. I think he would have, but I think he's relying on the data. And I don't think he has any foresight whatsoever. I think he's all back data, where Greenspan tried to say, well, this is where I think we're going. And then he would change it, right? And then if he was wrong, he's like, oh, I was wrong. And then he would like raise them, lower them. And it was 25 basis points, so nobody really cared. He's trying to pick the actual direction. Good luck with that, man. So it's definitely worth listening to. That's the long version. Short version is, yeah, I don't see how these names don't go higher. The question is, can I get a better price? I think that's the way to look at it. I really think that's the way to look at it, Jacob. I really do. And I do think that names like anything lumber is definitely going to go higher. Maersk is so hard to play. But yeah, I think you're going to go higher. I do. I own a bunch of ZIM, but I do think that goes higher. It makes perfect sense for what we're about to go through. Once they open Russia up again and all that starts kicking in, which I think is going to happen sooner than later. I do believe that. Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's definitely there. I don't know if that's something I want to do, but I do get it. I think it's there. What's up, buddy? MYT. Yeah, I mean, all you really have to do with this is just, from my standpoint, is it's so easy. You just go back to when was the election, right? Here, just buy from the election on, and you probably never really lose money if you look out 4 years. Because everybody, if you ever go through this, anytime you have a Republican, like, here, just go and buy it. Right, because they just trash Republicans, and so all the Democrats they'll sign up for the newspaper, and then you'll get somebody else in, and then they'll just get smoked, and then they trash the Republicans again. Everyone buys the newspaper. It's just kind of funny, but it's just the way that just the way it works. I don't know that you'd have to chase it. I mean, I would make sure you hold up in here. I don't care if people say it's political or not. I really could care less. It's just a fact. Go back and chart the stock since its existence. And run it from when you have a Republican president, from the date of election on to when you have a Democratic nominee or Democratic president. It's just a fact. But if you look at something like this, do you need to get involved? I'd make sure you hold and you don't crack. You would think that social media, would have lessened this, but it just hasn't. I think Carlos Slim still owns like the majority of the sucker, doesn't he? I still have that huge position. He bought it for pennies, like back in the day. Yeah, my sense is that NVIDIA is setting up for like a monster quarter, and people don't have a clue. I'm reading some of the comments. Well, I think you're there, right? I think you're there with the KREs, and I don't know if that's the way to play it. I think it's like, when I start looking at these banks like NYCB, well, that's not around anymore, but like MTB, I think you're better off playing the banks, individual names. That's where my head is with it. I do. I think you're better off playing the individual banks. So like I was looking at BK the other day. I mean, maybe Sophie's the play. Maybe Sophie's the play because of their regional status and how much they're going to benefit from it. Maybe that's the move. Maybe it is. IWM. I wouldn't look at IWM. I see it and everyone's like, IWM. Yeah. Okay. IWY. Yeah, I'd buy IWI. Like if I wanted to, like, I don't want to buy all these little companies that probably shouldn't even be public. Just buy the growth. Just go out there and buy the growth, man. I don't know. Now I'm too tall. I don't know what's going on here today. All kinds of issues. But that's kind of how I view it. What time is it? 9:08. Thanks, man. I would be buying IWI instead of IWM, and then just IWG or IWN, right? Is the value side. IWM is the growth. So, not IWM, it's IWO, right? IWO is the growth. So I buy the growth, but if I really wanted to play there, I'd buy IWY. If you think small caps are going higher, ARC. If you want to get super smart small cap and you want that next gen ARC W, I don't know that I need to buy all the garbage. If you think it's going to break out, maybe it does. How many times have I fallen for the freaking banana and the tailpipe on small caps? I just think there's too much stuff in it that shouldn't be public. So, happy Wednesday. Let's do CAT. I'm going to start running through these super quick. I would make sure it holds. I'd make sure that you hold. You had a huge move because of the weak dollar, and now that's over. What's up, buddy? What do you got? Covered. This is super interesting. I agree. And it does look like you're getting ready, and it was on the list. I watched the earnings, and I watched it like really not do anything, but I do think that for people that are looking for the next one of like those MP names, I'm not really sure why this isn't getting the same kind of attention. Maybe it's because there's no revenue, but I get it. I think you're going to see stuff like that. I do think that can go. I don't know that you're going to see CoreWeave unravel. I see HR. I'm going to try to get through everybody real quick. How much gas is left in ETH? I think ETH goes a lot higher. I don't really understand the whole. I don't know that I need to buy these guys. I think, I get it. Like everybody wants to be in this stuff, but I just don't really understand why you just wouldn't buy either ETH itself. You're going to go. There's no doubt about that. You're going to go and take this out. You're going to get a 5 handle very, very quickly. I just think it's more about this is just the easier trade. If you bought this and you wanted to play around with it, you're up $40, $50. That's from 2 days ago. That's the trade. How much is left? I don't know. You got these guys that are saying that we're going to buy 5% of it. And everyone out there is buying their stock so that, they're buying the stock so that they can take the money that you're giving them to go and buy Ethereum. So why wouldn't you just go buy Ethereum? But anyway, let's not have that conversation again. But if you go and look at it, yeah, if someone comes out and says we're going to buy 5% of all of it, even though it's infinite, which people aren't getting yet, but okay, it's going to go higher, right? Ethereum's just going to go higher. It just is. There's no doubt about it. And I understand their motive for wanting to do it. If I was them and someone was going to give me free money to go and buy Ethereum, I'd be doing it all day long. Why wouldn't you? Eventually it's just going to go back to the NAV. And then you have all this free, you used something that was worthless to create something else. It's a no-brainer from their standpoint. Why wouldn't you do it? Seriously, why wouldn't you? So it's just a question of how long are people just going to keep doing that for them? I think it's going to be a while. I don't think people truly get what they're doing, that they could just go and buy the thing themselves. I've been, I buy this stuff, but I don't sell it. I just buy it. And I have a longer term outlook with it. But I think it's going to go a lot higher. If you really think about this, where would it go? Let's play it out, Lynn, and then I'm going to have to wrap up here, guys. Sorry, I'll flip through and see if there's something there. But if you were to look at this and go, well, where could it go? Well, there's your base roughly, right? And you've been basing for 4 years. People say that can't be your base. It's your base. Just deal with it. And then you said, all right, from my base, where are my fib levels? And I'll do from soup to nuts, right, for the years, and then we'll just drop it. What time? I got to go. We'll go 5, 7, and we'll just do the 1, 6 and the 1, and we'll just drop them in. And you'll see that it actually respects them, right? So like there's the 78, right? Here's your low. Here's the 23. There's the 30. You can see it's respecting them. So, I mean, the measured move on it, 7,500. I mean, I don't think that that's unrealistic at all for that thing to get up there, and break out of that. So I think it's just beginning, frankly. People look at this stuff like, oh my God, where could it go? I don't know. It's going to be in every single stable coin. Most of them, that and Solana and Tron. So just going through these super quick, see if there's there. All right. I got to jump, guys. Trade to win today.